Yeah, gotta aim for the top like, hold up. Yeah, I can never doubt myself, I know better. All of you critics be acting like you know better. Blowing the smoke, but I know when the dust settles that I'm in my element. It's evident that there's levels to the game.
So what's happening, people? Welcome back to the Athletes podcast. Today I'm sitting down with Becky, and Becky, it was awesome that Adrian connected us. And once he sent the email, I had to look into your background, and I was like, man, she's done a ton. From being a professional athlete in soccer to being professional in physique with physique, and then being a coach and Big 12 Player of the Year when you play. Like there were just so many things. The list went on and on and on. So I was like, we definitely have to get her on and we definitely have to hear her story. So I'm really, really glad that you're able to hop on. So welcome to the show.
Hey, it is my pleasure. I mean, to get to talk to another athlete, and we're here to help athletes, and anybody that is wanting to learn more about how to help them is just totally my jam, and I'm ready for it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So like I told you before, I always love starting off with 5 kind of quick questions to kind of set the stage a little bit. So first question for you is, what made you become an athlete? Or should I say, who made you become an athlete? If there was an inspiration.
Yeah, my dad, he played football for the Cornhuskers for the Nebraska, played in 1969, 68 when they were Big 8 champs. And I played sports with my older brothers. And so that was my way to be able to play, is to go outside, and we always played sports. We were always outside. So if it was football or soccer or whatever it was, my family inspired me for sure.
Yeah. Who was an athlete that you looked up to as a young athlete coming up?
Oh, there's many. There's a lot of male athletes, but as I got a little bit older, there was more female athletes. But when I was younger, it was a lot of male athletes. Michael Jordan and some of the great football players. I loved watching Michelle Akers and Mia Hamm and Christine Lilly, and actually had the chance. They weren't that much older than me that I was actually able to play against them. But when I was wanting to play at the next level, they were already on the national team. So they inspired me greatly. And it just kind of worked out that I was able to, when the league came about, that I was actually able to play on the same field as them. But a lot of greats. I really appreciate all sports, and there's great athletes in all sports. But those are some of them. I mean, I remember watching Larry Bird and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I love watching basketball and football. Then I had a chance to be as an adult at Iowa State, and get to be around somebody like Cale Sanderson, who won the Olympic gold when I was there. So I just appreciate all athletes.
Mm-hmm. So as you have transitioned, and I know, one of the things that you are very passionate about is nutrition. What made you dive into the world of nutrition and get into the world of physique?
Yeah. So, it's interesting because I've always really enjoyed working out, and I started really kind of throwing weights around when I was 16 because my older brother, who was 2 years older than me, he kind of showed me the way. And I realized that it was a great thing. Like, I felt good about myself when I worked out. I really felt good about myself. But it wasn't until later in my life that I realized how much nutrition played a part in, like, overall the success of what you do in the weight room. Like, it's really 85% nutrition, and then you have the stuff. And you can sabotage yourself if you don't eat right. So after I had played soccer for a long time and I had gotten into coaching, the athlete in me was just like, well, what's the next goal? Like, what can I do? And at the time, I was not in college coaching. I left college coaching so I could be home with my, and start a family. And so I was really heavy into nutrition and consulting people. And I wanted to be a product. I wanted to be a good example for the people I was working with. And so I found out about bodybuilding, and I was really committed to to being a natural bodybuilder. So, went through the whole like polygraph testing and drug testing and everything like that. But it was just like another challenge. And I thought, well, it's a good challenge because it's healthy and it's a huge commitment, but it's going to be an educational process as I go through it. And then what I learned from this, I can help other people.
Mm-hmm. And you coached at Iowa State. What made you want to become a coach?
A coach. Wow. I've had a lot of great coaches in my life, like amazing, incredible coaches. Just to start out, I had Lauren Gregg at I mean, well, I could say college, but even growing up, I had so many great coaches that just poured belief into me. And I can think about a specific example of when I was like just a little kid and somebody told me that I could be one of the best in the state. And I was like 10 or 11 years old. And I still remember exactly the location of where that person told me that. And that carried me to be like, wow, like I really can maybe play at the next level, you know? And so coaches, like all throughout just growing up and having different people impact you and really care about you. And then I got to the next level and I had a lot of great college, you know, and then even professionally I had a lot of great role models. And so I think it becomes natural. Like if you love something, but you also love teaching, it kind of plays together. So I think there's a lot of great athletes that if it's really made a huge impact in their life, and I love working with kids and, you know, with teenagers, it's just a natural thing to do.
So we're obviously going to get into, you know, the business that you started, but what was the first goal that you wanted to check off when you became a business owner that you accomplished and kind of solidified that what you were doing was the right thing?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, it's so funny, but Athlete Achievement Academy was something that was inside of me for a long time, these ideas, but I knew I had something to give to kids, but I just didn't know how to package it or what to do or how to do it. And I had a young lady that was a teenager, and it's a great story because she just committed to with a scholarship to almost a full ride to play soccer in college. But it was when I first started consulting with them, and they actually came to me about nutrition because she wanted to put on some lean muscle. And through the conversation, I realized that her mom didn't know my background and didn't realize I had played soccer. And I got to talking about it. She said she really needs a mentor. We've gone through a lot. She lost her little brother a couple of years ago. He coded in front of her after having a seizure. And I just need somebody that's going to be a great mentor. She needs help with nutrition. Can you help her with her workouts? And by the way, she's a soccer player and she's getting recruited. Do you know somebody she could talk to? And I thought, oh my gosh, like it was like an answered prayer because I was kind of like, I loved nutrition, but I really knew that there was more and I really missed coaching. But I didn't want to go back to the college scene because I knew that was a sacrifice of time. Like I'm going to be with my team, but then I'm going to be away from my family a lot. So I wanted to be able to do something where I could really kind of put together my background and my experience to help young athletes. And so it kind of started with her. And then before you know it, there was a lot more people that wanted to be my clients. So I worked with them for a while and realized that, wow, this is what I want to do. And you formed my company, my LLC, just earlier this past year.
So the company's still in its infancy. So,
yep.
But before we even dig into that, I want to go back to this kind of the start of your career.
Okay.
As a high school athlete, everybody has goals of being under the biggest and brightest lights, right? Everybody wants to, you know, have the game on the line, you know, with 5 seconds left and hit the winning shot, right? Everybody wants that, you know, football players, you know, you want the game winning touchdown, right? For you, when you're growing up, what do those goals look like? Because you've obviously accomplished a lot at this point. But as a high school athlete, what did those goals look like? And how did you kind of dig into the process and really dedicate yourself to get to where you wanted to get to?
Wow. Okay, so that's a loaded question. And I played 3 sports. So would you like me to focus on one sport or all 3?
Honestly, all 3, because there's so many athletes now that try to specialize, but you're seeing how maybe not specializing and getting to be a well-rounded athlete and playing different disciplines, how much that helps. So how did you kind of dig into being a multi-sport athlete, I guess is probably the better question.
Well, I will tell you, I preach to coaches that I talk to today, and I really wish that they would hear this message very loud, but being a multi-sport athlete makes athletes so much better. And there's certain things from one sport that carry over to another sport. And it just really helps with the overall dexterity, the athleticism, the teamwork, the leadership, like dealing with being on different teams. You're dealing with different coaches, you're dealing with different personalities and different athletes. And you and I both know that we're not all, like maybe I'm great at this sport, but maybe I'm not as great at this sport. So how can I find my role as a team player to be able to make an impact on that team? And I really think it all comes down to like overall commitment to like improvement. So when I was a kid, I was wired a lot differently. And I think that people that have this characteristic where they have this innate drive to like want to be great, it doesn't matter what sport you're in. So somebody might think they're a wrestler. They might turn out to be the most amazing football player, or vice versa, or soccer. Like I played volleyball, but the things I did in volleyball to help my explosiveness and jumping and all that stuff, that carried over to being a goalkeeper. So I think it's an overall commitment to what are they doing right now that can impact them so they can be the very best they can be in what they're doing right now. And that could be, what are they doing for monitoring their nutrition and their sleep? And a lot of kids, like I didn't learn nutrition stuff until I was like in college. Like I really wasn't focused on that. I'm like, what would I have done? How much better would I have been if I would have known those things earlier on in life? But it's the commitment to being fit. It's the commitment to staying away from the wrong people and the wrong crowds and staying away from drugs and alcohol. It's like knowing what you want and just being the best at what you can be right now. Because they can focus on the next season, but if they can think about what can I do today that can move the marker a little bit further. And for me, it was just like every day, it was like there was days that I was in my room and it was late at night and I was like I wanted to be better. So I was doing push-ups and sit-ups and I was doing body weight exercises because my mom wouldn't let me go run outside in the dark. I learned how to lift weights. It wasn't a teacher didn't teach me, but I found somebody that did, and it was my brother. People don't know how to eat. Find somebody that teaches them how to eat. Kids don't know how to fuel themselves before and after competitions. Kids don't eat enough because they're always on the go. So if they can find the little things that can help them right now, and I think being a multi-sport athlete is phenomenal. It just helps them really understand their role, how to deal with coaches, and how to deal with being led.
Yeah. So how did you narrow it down, though? You were a multi-sport athlete in college. Did you decide because it was a passion, or more coaches were calling for soccer than for volleyball?
Yeah. So I was a multi-sport athlete in high school. I just played soccer in college. But I played volleyball, basketball, and soccer when I was in high school. And then before that, I mean, I tried softball and track and like all the sports as a kid. So if somebody has a young athlete, I highly encourage the parents to have them try different things, because it just, you never know what they're going to be good at. And it's also a great experience. Obviously they try it. If they don't like it, they have to see out that season. That's like our rule in our house. Like, okay, so this isn't your cup of tea, but you see it out because we're not quitters. But I got recruited more for volleyball and soccer with like bigger scholarship offers. And then I felt like I could go further with soccer based upon the feedback I got from colleges and coaches and stuff. So that's the avenue. My goal was to be on the women's national team for the USA. And I did not reach that goal. But fortunately, the women of 1999 won the World Cup. And right after that, a women's pro league started, and I was invited to the combine. So that's how I got into the professional league.
Yeah. And what was it like going to the combine? Was it kind of like being the freshman all over again, and you're a little bit starstruck because everyone around you is now a really good athlete and you're not the all-star? Or was it, one of those chances where you're like, this is my chance, like I'm going to really seize this?
Yeah. It was very intimidating. I mean, that's a total mindset. You go there and everybody's great and you're wearing numbers and you don't know who people are and you only know reputations, and you meet people and you don't know what to say. And you've got roommates that you're staying with that you've never met before. And you're across the country. And I mean, you can prepare as much as you can for that moment, but you don't know what's going to happen in the games or the training or whatever. I just looked at it as a great opportunity. I think like the way that I go into things is the way that I talk to a lot of athletes is you have to see the success before it happens. Because if you were like, what's the best thing that can happen? What's the best thing? Because we all can go to that place of like, what happens if I don't get drafted or if I don't this or that? And Ryan, I wasn't the best player at that combine. I was really good, but I knew I wanted to do that. And so I just put my best foot forward, and I just like, what's the best that can happen? I can get drafted. I didn't get drafted early on. I got drafted later, and I ended up getting drafted to the New York Power, but then went to New York. I mean, it's just crazy, the story. I'll try to sum it up quick, but went down to Texas, tried to meet with a friend of mine that tried to help me like get ready and like mentally and all that stuff and tried to prep for this. I get drafted. I go to New York. I buy a car. I drive from Nebraska to New York. I'm in Long Island for just a few days, just not very, very sick during preseason. We fly to San Diego. We're in San Diego for like 3 weeks. They put us up in a hotel in San Diego, which was really nice. And then I got released. And then I'm like, now what? Like I did what I was supposed to do. I chased my dream. But I was like, nope, it's not done. Like, I don't know what the next step is, but it's not done. Like, I wouldn't allow it. I was like, nope, it's not done. So I had some people help me make some phone calls and found out who needed a goalkeeper. And less than a week later, I'm driving to Boston. I don't have a place to live. It's not very cheap to live in Boston when you are not making a lot of money and I was drafted, but then I was released. So like people think pro soccer, you got paid, but I didn't get paid that much. So I probably couldn't afford to live in a single apartment in Boston on what I was making as a reserve goalkeeper. But I went in there and even as like I'm getting picked up by a team because they need another goalkeeper, I knew I wasn't being recruited to go in there as their starter. But I worked my way up to compete for the starting position, and I made everybody on the team better. And through that experience, I realized that I had my shining days where I was starting and had records and my team won championships in college. But now I'm at a different level and I'm learning what it takes to be an awesome team player and being committed and showing up and all those lessons that we learned. But that experience in itself, by going for it, it changed my life forever. Because being a professional athlete helped me when I got back into coaching, because it was a different level of respect. You know, like people know that you had to go through quite a bit to get to that level.
Yeah. So you have, really awesome career. And before we go into coaching, I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit about playing soccer professionally and seeing how much it's grown. You see so many women, playing soccer at such a high level. I mean, the women's team gets way more pub than the men's team at this point. Everybody knows who those stars are. Mm-hmm. How does it feel to know that you were part of that in its infancy and to see what it looks like now?
It's just, I'm so grateful. I just think about it. I almost like could get emotional about it, that anybody that listens to this, if they love playing sports, for me, it was like a safe place. Like I grew up in like soccer was always something, or sports was always something that helped me have structure in my life. So going to the next level and being able to be a part of that, and then now to see where things are at, I feel like I'm kind of a pioneer, and it gives hope to young people, girls and boys, that if they really have a dream of playing at the next level, whether it be their junior varsity or their varsity team in high school, and then there's so many opportunities for kids to play collegiately, D1, D2, D3, NAIA, junior college, if that's what they need for the step to go. And then professional soccer, I mean, the opportunities are just crazy. And then we talk about the NLI in college and how that has changed things. I mean, that'd probably be a whole nother podcast. But there's so much opportunity, and that opportunity to be able to play at the next level collegiately or professionally can just open so many doors for people, whether it be coaching like it was for me, or whether it be, leading athletes, or whether it be educating athletes like you do and talking to people and connecting and all the things that take place with just empowering young people. There's so many opportunities. And I tell a lot of kids I work with that being a part of that can never be taken away from you. So like, go for it while you can, because you can only be a professional athlete for so long. Like you can only play for so long. I've had 6 knee surgeries, so my body can testimony that I can't play goalkeeper anymore. But yeah. It's just wonderful when you can look back on your life and realize I went for it. And there's so many more opportunities now than there was back then. Yeah, it's really great to see the stars today.
Yeah, it is. And like you said, you can't play forever.
Yeah.
How did you make the transition from being an active athlete to not being an active athlete? And it's for no matter what sport you play, no matter what level it's at, it's abrupt. It's very quick. One day you're going to practice, you know what your training schedule is. The next day you're just not, and you have to figure out what that next step is.
Yeah.
How was that transition for you?
I could say that I could probably talk about a couple of instances because it was kind of abrupt a couple of times, right? Like we get an injury, and a lot of kids, their identity is wrapped up, and adults is wrapped up on the success of one thing. And then if that
Mhm.
thing is taken away, we don't know what to do with ourselves. And it can spin people into a severe depression. And Ryan, that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. Because when I was an athlete, I never really experienced a terrible injury when I was in high school. And then when I went to University of Virginia and I was a freshman, and I mean, I'm like this, you can't see how big I am right now. I'm like 5'9", 160 pounds, but I was 175 back then. And I did not know how to like go like this. When I was in the goal box, I went through people. Like I was kind of like an animal, right? Like people realized after I yelled goalkeeper, they got the heck out of the way after I ran them over a couple of times. So it's hard on the body, but when I was a freshman, I earned the starting spot as a goalkeeper, and we were playing against UNC Greensboro. It was the second day of school as a freshman year. My parents had just driven back to Nebraska because they were there for the exhibition game and the first game, and then they are on their way back. And I came out of the box to clear a ball, and three girls landed on my leg, and it was like massive break. Every ligament my foot was like this, and every ligament was torn. And in that moment, what I knew to be something that gave me my source of confidence was gone. And so for any athlete, whether you're choosing or it's taken from you, it can be very, very hard. I spiraled into a serious depression, and it was not good. It was not good. And I don't want athletes or people in general that have, that are elite athletes or have like this is what I am. I'm a pro this, or I'm a pro this, or I'm a college this, to have their identity so wrapped up that they can't deal with that and move on. So I dealt with that early on. And I mean, kind of a purpose of what I'm doing with Athlete Achievement Academy is because I want kids to know that they're so empowered that they can deal with injury and they can bounce back and they know the next thing to focus on. So I would say if somebody's career is over like mine, my next focus right away was getting back into coaching because I had already experienced being a college coach at Baylor University as a grad assistant. We won the Big 12 championship. And then after I got my master's, I got drafted. So I knew I want to get back into coaching because that's what I love, and I got to keep on going. And through being involved in coaching, I knew I could still kick the ball around a little bit, right? So I think that it's important for people to think about what is it that I can do from my experiences, because even if it's not in sport, like what kind of leadership skills can you take from sport to bring it to your next opportunity? And then maybe if it's like you love the sport, maybe it's getting involved in coaching, right? Like on the side or something like that. But for me, it was really understanding like this time is done. And the decision for me was when I was with the Boston Breakers. I mean, it was after having another surgery and just being injured. And the last straw, I think, was when I got hit with a ball in my face, and it caused my face to swell up, and I had 3 emergency root canals. It was kind of like they said it was like a boxing blow to the face. So, just the acceptance of it is really important so that people can move on.
Yeah. And you transition from, being a player to being a coach, and then, into nutrition and physique. Were you coaching and doing physique at the same time, or did physique come much later?
So when I was at Iowa State University, I did my first bodybuilding competition. And when the girls would train in the morning, I would work out at the same time as them. And so I just had one of the strength coaches at Iowa State help put together the program, 5 or 6 month program. It was like maybe a 2 or 3 month program. I don't know. It wasn't very long. And I got on stage. But after I left Iowa State, I actually coached club soccer for 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years. And when I left club coaching when I had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn baby, and started my own like health and wellness. But I've always done a little bit of coaching on the side. So, yeah.
Yeah. So now you have your own business, and you've basically taken the entire story that we've talked about, where you've persevered, you've set goals, everything that you've done in your past into this new business. Yeah. How did you, and I know we talked a little bit about, the girl that just committed and everything. And that
Yeah.
was kind of the solidifying factor. But how did you come to the conclusion that this is what your passion truly was and this is what you were meant to be doing?
I've had it inside of me for a long time, Ryan. And, I just didn't know how to put it together or what it looked like. So that's when you surround yourself with great mentors, right? So I have some really, really great mentors in Brian and Gabrielle Boucher with the Purpose Company. And I came to them and said, this is what I've done. This is who I am. And I think I want to serve athletes, but I don't quite know how. And so I'm really high in detail orientation, and sometimes you just wait because you want to feel like you have it all figured out and all detail, like this is what the program and everything. And I just started with consulting. So I just consulted, and it was just one-on-one, and it was one-on-one. I would do group Zooms with athletes to help them over topics that I knew were consistent, that all athletes need to work on. Like, how can we rebound from mistakes? Nutrition 101, nutrition 202. How can we fuel our bodies? What do we do for injury prevention? How do we lower our stress levels? All those things. But then I also have one-on-ones with athletes. So that's how my program's designed right now, because everybody needs a personal plan. Like, you are way different than Joey and Bobby and Betty and whatever. So talking on a group setting. So I believe that if I set something up where at first I thought it was going to be mindset and nutrition and recruiting. But then what I found was so many athletes need the mindset component. Some are interested in nutrition, but I will tell you that it's more of a focus on mindset than anything. And I love it. I love it. And then there's, some athletes I work with that are not getting recruited yet, because I work with 7th through 12th grade. But then the ones that are getting recruited, we just come up with a personal plan for them and we attack it. And it's all about them having accountability and ownership of the process.
So now, you said you work for 7 through 12, but obviously there's always going to be this microscope that's on the college level for sports, no matter what,
Yeah.
And the big thing is right now is, conference realignment, and you're talking about athletes from all over the country that are now basically just like moving all around. Right. And you have, California schools joining the ACC. When you see things like this and, you were an athlete, so what it took to go to class, go to film study, go train, go to practice, you're getting maybe, 4 to 5 hours of where you honestly feel like you're truly relaxed when you're an athlete, no matter what level you're on. When you see all of these different things that are happening, what's the first thing that kind of comes to your mind for these athletes when you're like, oh, well, now, Stanford has to travel to UNC to play in a couple of years. How do you kind of compartmentalize these things where you're taking what as a coach, what as an athlete, and what as a counselor now and putting them together? What's your response to when you see things like that are changing, that are so drastic on the college level?
Yeah. That's a great question. There's two major, that could be viewed as a huge problem because it puts more demand on the athlete. And so I have seen that there's been changes as far as the game scheduling, like the NCAA is changing the way they do things, where they're scheduling, because the athletes need rest. And when I coached, it was like Friday, Sunday game. And if you played on a Friday night and had a double overtime, and then you turn around and you play at 1:00 on Sunday, that's less than 48 hours for, athletes playing 120 minutes. It's like way too much on their bodies. And so I've seen some adjustments that have been great that the NCAA and different legislation has gone through. Conference alignments are going to happen, and we can't control it. You can't, I can't, all of us athletes can't do anything about it. So if you are somebody that I was trying to help, I would say, you know what, Ryan, you can't deal with any of this. So keep the main thing. Eliminate the stressors in your life. And we would just go through that. Like, let's figure out all the mindset things. Let's figure out all the nutrition things. Let's figure out all the educational things. Because even a simple thing like being a procrastinator is like increasing your stress load huge. You're not going to perform at the level you need to. And you're physiologically going to be weaker because you procrastinate your studies. Like something simple like that. So if athletes can just focus on the main thing, their schedule, structure, support, knowing how to communicate, knowing how to ask for help when they need it, knowing when they need a mental break. Because like, even like one of my kids today, she was like, I need a mental break. I don't have anything going on. I just need like an afternoon. I'm like, you got it. Like, kids need to be aware of when they're exhausted. And I think the old adage is just push through, just keep going. I don't even know what the sayings are, but like, that's like the way that I feel like maybe we were told. And I don't think that's healthy for kids. So they have to control the controllables. They can't control any of that. So, I think it's absurd, some of the alignments that like you just mentioned, because that's a burden. That's a burden on the athlete. That's really hard on their bodies. But hopefully the individual universities and everything like that, they figure out a plan to try to support the athletes, because they usually do a great job.
So some of the things that, we grew up with hearing is mental toughness. And
Yeah.
there's a really big misconception between having mental toughness and your mental health, right? Like, mental toughness, one of the things I just read the other day is, mental toughness is taking frustration within your sport and turning it into motivation, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
mental health is truly like your well-being. But I feel like a lot of coaches are misconstruing those two, right? They think that, a player isn't mentally tough if they can't push through certain things.
Mm.
How would you define, or at least juxtapose, mental toughness with mental health for kids that don't understand the difference?
Mm. Mental health is an awareness. It's an awareness of how you feel today and how you are showing up, and being able to communicate, like, I'm struggling with this, or I'm sad with this, or this is really affecting me. And if I don't find a solution to this one thing right now, it's going to bring me down more. Like, overall, just their health. And so that could be a coach situation, that could be a player situation, that could be I haven't had a day off in 6 days, and I need one. My body hurts, and I'm like, this is a mental health, like, I'm like fried, and it's affecting other areas of my life. That's a mental health thing. A mental toughness thing is usually more of a physical, like, can I push through this? And it's understanding the threshold, and every athlete has to understand their threshold. But a mental health, if it's carrying over and affecting other areas of their life, then they have to ask for help, and they have to learn how to ask for help, and they have to learn how to communicate. And it can't be through Snapchat, and it can't be through Instagram. It can't be through a text message. They have to learn to, like, real life, know how to communicate, and not only communicate, but they need to know when they need help. But mental toughness is like, can you push through this? I feel like it's more like, can you push through this drill? Can you push through the game? Like, and that's more of a threshold from a mental, like, physical, like, we're getting beaten pretty bad and I'm going to push through this game. That doesn't carry over to your studies. That doesn't carry over to your relationships. That carries through, like, it's more in the moment. I feel like mental health is like, it's an all thing. It's way more important than the mental toughness.
Yeah.
Hope that
Yeah.
answers your question.
Ultimately, it does. It does. And it was something that, like I said, I just read an article the other day, and I was like, man, like, you deal with these things on a daily basis, and I really
Mhm.
wanted to have your perspective on it.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, two things. One, I want you to let the audience know, what is Athlete Achievement Academy? What is the goal for you with your business? And then I want you to finish with giving us a piece of advice, something that you've either learned throughout your career as an athlete, your career as a coach, or your career as, as the founder of your own company.
All right. Well, Athlete Achievement Academy was formed so that I can empower young people to go for their goals and be able to, like, to play at the next level if that's what they desire, but to really make athletes excel now and be more prepared for the future. I don't want people to be in the situation where they got where I was when I was a freshman, and I didn't have the tools to massively succeed, and I had to figure that out. That was a hard time for me. So I want kids to be successful now. If they want to, they have dreams of playing at the next level, let's explore it. And really, it's also for the parents. Parents are really stressed out because they're trying to figure all this out for their kids, and they're trying to deal with understanding how to guide them and also empower their athletes. So I just really want this time to be something where I'm empowering families so that they can have support through these times as an athlete and to help them prepare for the next level. That's why I founded Athlete Achievement Academy. I work right now with clients one-on-one, but I also do group settings, and I also do keynotes. So I come in and speak to different groups, different high schools, clubs. Some of it's virtual, some of it's in person. So the way that people can contact me, my email address is becky@athleteachievementacademy.com. They can go to my website and learn more about me there, athleteachievementacademy.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook, just my name, Rebecca Sanow. I do go by Becky, but it's Rebecca there. Let me see. I think I covered that. Now for advice. Don't wait for things to happen. I teach people to be proactive about what they want in their life, know where they want to go, and figure out today what they need to do to make small steps towards getting to where they want to be. And live in the moment, like appreciate exactly where they're at right now, understanding where they're at. Because if we don't know what we need to work on, we're never going to get where we want to be. So it's just really having a personal plan. And that's what I love doing most, Ryan, is coming up with a personal plan for the athletes that I work with to find out what we need to work on, where we want to go, what we need to grow with, and then go. But a lot of kids wait for things to happen. So they have more of a reactive, and this could be for anything, not just sports. They wait for things to happen. I wait for somebody to contact me about that job, or I wait for somebody to send me a letter to get recruited, or I wait for somebody to tell me that they think I'm good enough to play at the college level. Well, thankfully, I had somebody at the age of 10 tell me that, which was super cool. Like, you could really do that if you want someday. Like, it started out with you could make JV, you could make varsity, you could be the best in the state. Like, I don't think I slept that night. I still remember that day when he said you could be the best goalkeeper in the state. And then when I was the best goalkeeper in the state, my high school coach said you could play in college. So we need to breathe that belief into other people, but we need to breathe that belief into ourselves.
Becky, this was great. This was super inspirational and informational. And I love everything that you've stood for and everything that you've done. We've been in the same places. I've been to Iowa State, and I've seen, those halls and seen all the work that's been put in by a lot of those athletes. And, I still keep in contact with those coaches so it was, like I said, doing research on you, it was really cool to see all the things that you've accomplished and all the things that you've done, and, hearing about the, how women's soccer, how you've kind of been one of those pioneers that have really helped it get to where it is. You were there in its infancy. So hearing about all those things, it's been really, really awesome. Before I let you go, do you have anything else that you would love to leave us with?
Yes, I do. Thanks for asking. So anybody that's listening, I actually have a number that they could text. And when they text that number, it's 33777. When they text that number, they just type in learn. And that's all they have to do. They'll put their email address in, and that'll just give me an opportunity, because I do a masterclass every month. So that'll give me the ability to have the contact to email them and let them know about my free masterclasses. I vary it up and do topics on all the things that we talked about today.
Awesome. Well, if anyone is listening, you should definitely be texting that number and getting a lot more information. But Becky, I'm going to let you go. This was, like I said, it was an awesome conversation. I love listening and hearing about all of the things that you've done throughout your career.
Ryan, thank you so much. This has been awesome talking to you today and getting to know you, and I look forward to staying in touch.